The sky above Virello 9 was, quite frankly, showing off. Electric blue clouds snaked across the atmosphere like sentient smoke, casting shimmering reflections on the transparent dome of the ceremonial arena. The arena itself was a marvel of over-designed architecture, a spiraling, multi-level coliseum built not so much for function, but for flourish, as if someone had dared an AI to construct a building that looked like it was constantly applauding itself. Commander Rylan Holt stood in the southern gate archway, adjusting the strap on his left pauldron with the same expression one might wear when discovering a surprise expiry date on milk. The armor, if one could still call it that, was a patchwork of Earth's finest pre-singularity engineering, dented in 3 places, scorched in 5, and suspiciously squeaky around the groin. A deep graphite gray with blue-tinted edges, it had once been part of an elite command unit's uniform. Now it mostly served to remind people that Earth soldiers were either brave, stupid, or on a very tight budget. Rylan inhaled slowly, ignoring the hover drones circling overhead with their live feeds beaming across 7 planetary systems. He flexed his fingers in the old gauntlet, stiff, sluggish, and slightly sticky from a protein bar mishap 2 days prior. He hadn't cleaned it, part protest, part laziness. "Commander Holt," a silky voice intoned through the comlink implanted behind his ear, "your opponent is arriving. Please refrain from saluting her forehead. It's considered a mating invitation in her culture." He sighed. "Noted, ceremonial officer. I'll keep my hands and my awkwardness to myself." With a slight hiss of pressurized air, the northern gate of the arena parted. From the mist stepped Princess Kalith of House Ziver, and the crowd lost its collective mind. She was radiant in that offhandedly lethal way. Tall, upright, her blue skin shimmered subtly under the alien sun, and her golden armor flexed like it was alive, because it was. The suit responded to her every movement like an extension of her will. Tiny kinetic coils whirring softly beneath smooth, almost organic plating. Her ears, long and tapering like an elegant blade, twitched with precision as she surveyed the arena, her eyes flicking briefly toward Rylan. He tried not to shift uncomfortably, or adjust anything, or speak first. She did it for him. "That," she said, gesturing lazily toward his armor with one gloved finger, "is either a museum piece or a cruel joke. Tell me, Commander, do your people often wear relics into battle, or is this your idea of psychological warfare?" Rylan blinked. "This? Oh, no. This is the deluxe model. You should have seen the budget version. Comes with a cork helmet and shoulder pads made of optimism." Kayla's eyes narrowed, but her lips curled slightly. "And here I thought humans didn't believe in comedy. We didn't, until after the Second Mars War. It's how we coped with losing to our own supply bots." There was a pause. She tilted her head, expression unreadable. "You jest. Only about half the time. The other half is just poorly timed honesty." Ceremonial drums began to echo in the distance, deep, rhythmic, and entirely unnecessary given that everyone's internal audio feeds were synced to the moment. Still tradition. Somewhere a choir of 10-throated Ziver monks began to hum the ancient tune of Choral Unity, which sounded suspiciously like a whale humming through a traffic jam. Rylan stepped into the arena's central ring, the warm buzz of the kinetic boundary tingling across his boots. Kalith mirrored him. Her gait was effortless, like she didn't have 1,000 nanofilament circuits interpreting her spinal impulses at every step. He, by contrast, sounded like an old refrigerator with a vendetta. "This duel is symbolic," the announcer intoned in a dozen languages at once, his voice echoing inside every skull with surgical clarity. "It represents the meeting of 2 empires, Earth's Terran Accord and the Ziver sovereignty. No death, no crippling, just display, mutual respect, and hopefully a good show." "Emphasis on show," Kalith murmured. She took position across from him, blades not yet drawn. Then with theatrical deliberation, she reached up and pressed her palm against her chest plate. Runes flared to life, crawling along the suit in soft gold, then retracted like ink running backward. The armor hissed, unlocked. "What are you doing?" Rylan asked warily. "Leveling the field," she replied, and the armor began to peel away. First the pauldrons, sliding back and vanishing into her spine plate. then the gauntlets, then the chest plate, which folded in on itself like a metallic lotus. Beneath it all was a form-fitting underlayer of fabric, simple, silvery, and clearly ceremonial, offering no more protection than a gentle breeze. The crowd collectively gasped. So did Rylan, albeit in a more professional tone. Kalith stood now without her armor, blue skin catching the refracted lights of the arena's upper orbiting rings, ears angled like sensors toward him. She looked entirely vulnerable and entirely unafraid. "This is highly irregular," Rylan said, his voice a bit more scratchy than he'd like. Kalith shrugged, her hands open at her sides. "So is your fashion sense. But here we are." He found himself chuckling before he could stop it. "You realize that was 10 million credits worth of tech you just stripped off in public. 17, actually. The upgraded version has mood lighting." "Of course it does." A moment passed. The crowd was hushed, hungry for action, unsure whether to applaud or call for a medic. But Rylan's blade remained sheathed, and Kalith had yet to summon hers. He looked at her, really looked, and saw not just the posturing or the elegance, but the glint of challenge in her eyes, one not born of arrogance, but of curiosity, of something testing the limits of ceremony, of expectation. "You're not playing to win," he said quietly. She smiled. "I'm playing to see who you are without your mask." Rylan exhaled. "Great. You had to go straight for the metaphor. Do you Earthmen always hide behind metal and sarcasm?" He grinned. "Only the attractive ones." And for a moment, just a moment, Kalith laughed, a real laugh, light and unguarded. Her ears twitched again, and she folded her arms as if reconsidering something. Then the hum of her personal blade ignited softly in her palm. "Your move, Commander." He drew his saber, steel blue energy hissing into form, not to strike, not yet, but to meet her in the middle of whatever this duel was becoming. And somewhere far above, the orbiting satellite cameras zoomed in, the feeds going wild as viewers across the galaxy leaned in, watching two warriors on the edge of tradition, disarmament, and something far stranger than diplomacy. Whatever this was, it had only just begun. The ceremonial duel had not ended, strictly speaking. It had simply wandered off course, like a drunken courier drone deciding halfway through its delivery that perhaps enlightenment lay elsewhere. After Princess Kalith's unexpected and very public armor removal, an act that sent half the Galactic review board into a conniption and the other half into fan fiction, the officials opted for a brief intermission, which in Virelon 9 terms meant a 70-minute pause accompanied by roasted fungi snacks and holographic interpretive dances that no one understood, but everyone pretended to. Rylan Holt sat alone in the antechamber of the arena, surrounded by softly glowing marble walls and a ceiling that projected a calming image of space whales swimming through nebulae. The room smelled faintly of citrus and a bit more strongly of antiseptic, like someone had recently sanitized an alien hostage negotiation here and wanted to leave a pleasant aftertaste. He flexed his arms, his armor hissing faintly as it recalibrated around his shoulders. A tiny warning light blinked somewhere behind his left ear plate. Joint lubrication low. Please consult a certified mechsmith, or stretch, or die. He ignored it, tapping a control pad on his wrist and watching as a three-dimensional diagram of Kalith's armor floated into view. The scan was partial, mostly from visual input during their brief standoff, but enough to make him whistle softly. 17 million credits, he muttered, zooming in, and she peeled it off like she was stepping out of a bathrobe. Who does that in the middle of a diplomatic duel? A chirp came from the doorway. The soft glow of light rearranged itself, and then she was there. Kalith. And you're sitting here unarmored with a guy who once tried to disable a plasma mine by kicking it. She narrowed her eyes. Did it work? Only if you count waking up in orbit, working. Silence again, but softer now, comfortable. Outside the chamber, distant drums resumed, signaling the duel was to be called back into session, but neither of them moved yet. We'll have to finish the fight, Kalith said, rising to her feet. Or fake it, really convincingly, Rylan offered. She gave him a look. I'm a princess. I don't fake anything. I'm a soldier. I fake being awake half the time. As she walked toward the door, she glanced back over her shoulder. When the fight resumes, don't go easy on me. Wasn't planning on it. And don't hold back just because you like my ears. He grinned. I don't like your ears. She arched a brow. I love your ears. And then, for a heartbeat, her smile returned. And this time it reached her eyes. The doors dissolved again. Outside, the arena waited. So did the rest of the galaxy. But in here, in the quiet chamber filled with jokes, memories, and an unexpected threat of something fragile, something had shifted. Neither of them could say exactly what it was yet, but both of them knew it mattered. The arena shimmered as the heat from Virello 9's twin suns poured through the crystalline dome, bathing everything in an ethereal orange glow. The ceremonial drums thundered again, but this time they had a certain finality to them, as if even the ancient rhythms understood they were coming to the end of a story that had gone wildly off script. A few thousand feet above, orbital drones caught every angle, broadcasting the closing act of the duel to billions, most of whom were now far more invested in the personal tension than the political stakes. Commander Rylan Holt stood in the center of the arena, his armor freshly buffed in an optimistic attempt at decency, the squeaky knee joint finally silenced, likely through divine intervention or an angry technician with a hammer. Across from him, Princess Kaleth walked slowly into the ring once more. Her undersuit now bore a new sash, emerald green with a sliver of silver threading, a color only worn during treaties in Zavere tradition. It was a subtle message, a final act. The crowd, sensing the gravity of this moment, quieted. Kaleth stopped just a few paces from him. Her long ears flicked once, her gaze sharp but unreadable. So, Rylan said, breaking the silence, here we are. The epic conclusion. Will there be fireworks or just unresolved emotional trauma? Kaleth's lips curled. I was promised a duel. If I leave without at least a dramatic pose and a sparkly explosion, my ancestors will disown me. Oh, don't worry, Rylan said, drawing his saber slowly. I've been saving a dramatic pose all day. It's called Stance of the Tired Human Who Has No Idea What He's Doing, but is trying really hard to look cool. She activated her own weapon, a slender arc of crystalline energy that hummed a perfect B-flat, and took a step forward. Your form needs work. Tell that to my academy instructor. He said I fought like a drunken octopus with emotional baggage. Was he wrong? Rylan hesitated, then shrugged. Not really. Their blades met, not with fury, not with rage, but with something else. Rhythm, mutual respect. The crowd, expecting an explosive clash, instead watched something far more elegant, a dance of measured movements and playful strikes, an exchange more like conversation than combat. Kaleth spun low, her blade tracing the air beside him. You've improved. Because I'm trying not to die, he grunted. You're trying not to disappoint me. He grinned, parried a strike, and ducked under a sweeping arc. Is that what this is now? A relationship evaluation with swords? I'd consider it efficient multitasking. They clashed again, steel and energy flaring against each other, and then parted, breathing hard but not winded. Every motion was deliberate, every move just short of serious. This wasn't war. This was theater. Rylan stepped back, blade raised. You know, if I'd known flirting in your culture involved weapons, I'd have invested in a better helmet. Kaleth raised an eyebrow. That is your better helmet, isn't it? Okay, now you're just being cruel. She smirked, but then the smirk softened. You've changed, she said quietly. Rylan lowered his blade slightly. So have you. The next moment passed without a word, not because they didn't have things to say, but because some things said too quickly lose their weight. Then together, as if rehearsed, they deactivated their weapons. The arena gasped. The announcer fumbled a few syllables in Galactic Basic before finally declaring, "The duel has ended, without a victor, without defeat." Kaleth stepped closer, enough that Rylan could see the fine glow along her jawline, the quiet shimmer in her eyes. I didn't want to win, she said. I wanted you to understand. He looked at her, all traces of bravado melting. I do. Then you'll come with me. That stopped him. Come with you where? To the summit, to the seat of sovereignty. We'll present the treaty together. I'm not exactly the poster boy for diplomacy, he said. You've seen what I do to formalware. Exactly. You're real. They'll trust that more than 10 polished speeches and a buffet. Rylan looked down at his armor, his worn gauntlet, the tiny burn mark he'd never bothered to clean. He thought of his squad, his scars, the years of loyalty wrapped in sarcasm and duct tape. And then he looked at her, unarmored, honest, willing to be seen. All right, he said softly, but only if there's a buffet. In the summit on Elaria Prime was a shimmering tower of glass and air, suspended above an ocean that changed color with the wind. Dignitaries from across the systems gathered to witness the unexpected. A Terran soldier and a Zavere princess walking side by side. No ceremonial duel, no armor, just two people. Kaleth wore the same silvery suit, the green sash replaced by white and gold, signaling unity. Rylan had swapped out his battle gear for a sharply pressed diplomatic jacket, though he'd kept the gauntlets, for luck, and because he still hadn't figured out how to remove them without causing a small fire. They stood at the podium, facing a crowd of thousands, and a screen showing billions more. Kaleth spoke first, her voice calm and clear. Our people have long misunderstood each other. We meet in armor. We hide behind it. But strength is not in steel or circuitry. It's in choosing to be seen. Rylan stepped forward. I came here expecting to prove myself in combat. What I didn't expect was to lose a duel and gain a partner. In every sense. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Kaleth raised an elegant hand. Let history remember this day, not for the blades drawn, but for the ones we sheathed. The room erupted in applause. Later, away from the lights and the cameras, Rylan and Kaleth sat on the edge of the summit's balcony, watching the ocean shimmer below. Still think my ears are your favorite feature? She asked. Rylan leaned back, arms behind his head. They're top 5, she grinned. And what's number 1? He looked at her sideways. That thing you did when you took off your armor. That moment. She nodded. You mean when I disarmed you without lifting a weapon? I'll never recover, he said dramatically. You're not supposed to. And in the silence that followed, there were no more duels, no more masks, just stars, and 2 warriors who had finally stopped fighting long enough to see each other.